Welcome, everyone, to episode 44 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I'm your host, a member of the pack till the day I die, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, the emotional cornerstone, locker room guy, Kyle Hogan.
What's going on, everybody? Well, I didn't think that maybe common sense would have taken over, but here we are at the end of 1998 for WCW, and I feel like, we know. I don't think the WCW gets any more hype or any bigger moving forward. So here's to 1998, and I guess I'm looking forward to whatever 1999 has to offer. But I'm slowly starting to think that I think the quality is going to be very suspect for the next 44 episodes.
It will be interesting, but I gotta say, we have made it. We have made it through 1 year of Thunder. Well, we will be in the next hour. We'll have gotten through 1 year of Thunder. All of you listeners out there, our Thunder buddies, you have made it through 44 episodes with us. 1998, the show kicked off in January, and here we are, 10 days away from Starrcade, the granddaddy of them all. I mean, what a year it's been.
And it's been really exciting, and what better way to start off the excitement with the passing of Brady Boone.
If you don't know who Brady Boone is, you're probably not alone. And weirdly enough, I think you asked who he was last week without
the thing.
Knowing who it is.
Yeah, he was there for Norman Smiley's match against Kaz Hayashi. Because we talked about how Kaz Hayashi was tapping out immediately to the chicken wing, and he basically was just looking like, we'll let it ride for a little while. And I was, who the heck was that? And then we realized, he's dead now. And by now I mean a week later. Yeah,
he actually died 2 days before this Thunder taping. Car accident, actually, or automobile accident, I guess I should say. He wrestled for a period of time before he was a referee. Battle Cat and Fire Cat, the masked Fire Cat, Lynx. Those were all names he wrestled under.
That sounds like early 90s WWF bullshit right there.
Yeah, pretty much. He did wrestle in 1990 as Battle Cat in the WWF. He also wrestled there in 86 to 88. He did win some matches, but basically beat other jobbers, and he was a jobber. His claim to fame is probably on a episode of Saturday Night in 1994. He jobs to Stone Cold Steve Austin back when he was, not Stone Cold Steve Austin. But and his final match, he wrestled on Saturday Night, defeating Rip Rogers. So there you go.
So he retired as a winner.
Right. And then he went into reffing and actually was driving home to Tampa, Florida from a WCW television taping in Orlando and died in an automobile accident. So
you sound choked up, man. All right.
It's been an emotional couple of days here. So.
It's been an emotional couple 21 years.
But what is also emotional is this Charlotte crowd, because they're fired up. It's Horseman country, if there ever was Horseman country. And we are live, and there's no better way to kick up the final Thunder of the year than being live, being in Charlotte, knowing that the Horsemen are here, and knowing that Eric Bischoff, had to apologize. Ric Flair had a heart attack on Monday, so their feud was really heating up. It actually sent Rick into the hospital. Bischoff is remorseful, and Tony, Bobby, and Lee are, of course, discussing all of that. And we also find out in our main event, Lex Luger and Scott Hall will be wrestling, because why not?
I kind of want to know why. I feel like the last 2 weeks they've been helping each other. So from a booking standpoint, if you were just to say they have no, let's say they had no horse in the race, then sure, whatever, put them in the main event. But that's a shitty main event to just have a match that has absolutely zero pull on it. But there is pull on it in the sense that even though Scott Hall is the man with no banner, he has been more often than not coming to the aid and getting aid from the Wolfpack. So why is he wrestling Lex Luger? Just because. And once again, I'm not complaining about who's in the main event. I'm more suspect of the timing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. We do open up with our first replay of the night. It's Scott Steiner talking about how he knows where Lex's career is and basically tells him to drop the red and black and come join the black and white. So Scott Steiner is actually trying to recruit the recruiter of the Wolfpack. So
I bet you Lex is like, damn, he's good at this.
Man, I never thought about actually just openly asking people to join like that. Our first Wolfpack member will be coming out for the night, though. Conan, our television champion, is going to be, I think, defending his title. I'm going to assume anytime a television champion's in action, he's defending the title against Kenny Chaos, who, of course, you might remember is apparently still a tag team champion.
I mean, he must have beaten Judy Bagwell in a dark match or something. I don't know. That's such a that tag title. We talked about this before about how the titles right now are so inconsequential, which I think is the problem with storytelling back in this day, where it was like the title should mean something. The title should always be, no matter what, when you're watching wrestling, the prestige, the honor of being whatever championship you're going for should be like that's the cherry on top, right? That's what you're going for. That's the prize. But I feel like so many of these stories are getting so muddied up by being pulled in so many different directions that it's like, oh, wait, right. Kenny Chaos is a tag champion, which, by the way, he never defends it with Rick Steiner. So
that's fantastic.
Is he really a tag champion when he was handed a belt and then had to defend it on that night that he was, that he had to get a partner? And then until then, the tag titles are never defended. Rick Steiner gets an injury, and in not WCW fashion, they have to vacate the titles because of an injury. Usually, if it actually meant something, they'll be like, Wolfpack rules, or, we'll have somebody else be the tag champion with me for a day. But so in this case,
high voltage rules don't apply here.
No, high voltage rules do not apply, and we'll find out later that Rage apparently already knew this.
Of course, Conan's going to get in the ring, say his things, and Lee Marshall says that Conan is rowdy, and bowdy kind of guy, which coming from Lee Marshall is like when your dad's trying to be hip. Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell are going to come out and join the commentary team here. Scott Steiner, of course, if you had to pick one heel in WCW right now, I feel like Scott Steiner is probably the most classic heel as far as calling the crowd fat and lazy and beating up, whoever he can, like just total heel move, right? So right. Here in Charlotte, no bigger heel move than wearing the hometown jersey.
But you got to remember who he was wearing, though. It actually does make a little bit of sense. Like, he was kind of being a heel dick move, because by this time, Kerry Collins had, I think, just been waived, and nobody. Well, the whole story about Kerry Collins, if you don't remember, for anyone else who's not as caught up with it, I used to really like Kerry Collins. I was a big fan of the Panthers when they first came out, when the Jaguars and the Panthers first showed up as those expansion teams. He was the starting quarterback, and then after like 3 years or something like that, I think he actually made it to either a Super Bowl or an NFC Championship game for the Panthers. I think it was NFC. I think it was just a conference championship. And like the very next year, he was struggling, and he told the coach that basically, hey, my heart's not in it. I want to be traded, yada, yada, yada. And instead of being traded, I think it was Dom Capers basically just cut him. And it was just circling around that, his heart wasn't in it. He didn't care about the Panthers anymore. And he became vilified in the city of Charlotte because of it. So okay. I understand why Scott Steiner, at this point in December 98, when
it makes more sense
Collins is no longer on the team at this point.
I didn't even pay attention to whose jersey it was. I just saw he was wearing a Panthers jersey, but that would make a lot more sense at that point. It'd be like wearing like a Ravens jersey or something, or like when you're going against the Browns then, or something to that effect. So all right, I'll allow it, Scott. But as far as the commentary, he's going to basically talking about, Luger's going to be back on track to be a black and white member. It says that, Luger can trust him and Buff. And eventually, Conan, as far as this match goes, he's going to do his normal kick to the midsection, followed up by a face smasher and tequila sunrise for the win. Commentary team lost their minds about that kick to the midsection, which I don't know why, but they did. I gave it a star and 3/4. I didn't think the match was very good. Commentary team was basically focused on Scott Steiner. And we also buried a tag team champion pretty easily in this, if you want to call him that.
Yep, and I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't like this match. 1.5 stars. Kenny Chaos is coming out here with a belt. and the offense was slow and pretty sloppy. There was no real pop-worthy offense for a guy who, a strong man like Kenny Chaos, who normally, if you actually let him wrestle, he has an okay moveset. He's got a couple of springboard moves he can do. He's got a couple of strongman moves. And Conan's going to do his Conan things. I mean, that dude's been coasting for a while. So, I mean, that guy, is just going to do his things. But really, Kenny Chaos really didn't get to do any of his things to make himself at least get somewhat over as one half of the tag champions. So overall, I think it was poor booking. The match was not enjoyable. And then to put on top of that, the only thing I guess I give this credit for, this was the right match to have Scott and Buff at commentary, because this wasn't a good match to call.
I'll give you that, but it still took away from whatever you were going to get out of this match, which wasn't much. So it was. I'll agree with you. If you want to have them come out, this is the match to do it. After the match, though, Robbie Rage, that's his name, right? We decided.
Yes, we decided, and it's also his name.
He comes into the ring. He throws that tag title at Kenny Chaos, obviously upset that while he was hurt, Kenny Chaos went out and continued to try and further his career. They're yelling back and forth. Naturally, we can't hear anything because WCW couldn't pick up the audio very well. But basically,
you think that they couldn't have a mic just for that moment? I understand
so. It wasn't even like they argued for a minute. They argued for like quite some time on camera.
You might as well say they cut an off mic promo,
right?
Which rule number one, you don't have those. You get a mic.
So needless to say, a little bit of turmoil here between High Voltage. So one of the hottest storylines as we head into Starrcade.
All I heard was "check yourself before you wreck yourself." That was a quote from Robbie Rage. So he seems nettled.
They're in the middle of an argument. We immediately cut away from it to the to outside the arena where a limo's pulling in. So something important must be happening as Beth Flair, David Flair, and Reid Flair all come out. So sorry, High Voltage, your TV time of your argument, your feud was cut off to let you know that the Flair family is here.
Well, this is not anything new. I think I remember we were watching back in the old podcast. I think it was something like Ultimo Dragon versus Rey Mysterio, like the really young Rey. And they were having like a great match, and they're like, "Oh, we think something's going on in the back," and all it is was like Hogan's like limo showed up. We're like, "Who the fuck gives a shit about that?" But yeah, that's unfortunately High Voltage. If a limo is showing up, they're gonna cut to it. Doesn't matter who's in it. That's just WCW rules, man.
We will get our second replay at this time, and it's Bischoff basically, talking about his fists and how he's gonna knock Flair out with this one, and how the other one's even stronger than the other one. Then they cut to Flair, and this is where Flair's gonna get into the ring. He's gonna tell says that Bischoff has no heart. It's a really passionate promo here by Rick, and then afterwards he's gonna clutch his chest, fall back into the corner of the ring, and sit down like he's Raven. And Gene is going to basically say, "Oh man, this guy looks pretty exhausted. He must have, really cut a passionate promo, And then all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, we might need help out here." This leads to the stretcher job. Arn Anderson's going to come out. Flair's going to be stretchered out, and of course, this is the whole heart attack angle, which I still to this day think it's a great angle because it seems very real.
It did. It's Flair, ever being the ever consummate professional, sold a heart attack pretty well. I would assume that he probably was told what to act like, what to look like, what are the telltale signs, because you can't just be like, "Oh, my heart," and just kind of fall down. Like he was kind of clutching his shoulder, which, I mean, that's usually like your back and your shoulder muscles start to really tense up and ache when it first starts happening. And he kind of like got down to the ground, and you could tell when Arn showed up, Flair sounded like he was in pain. He actually almost sounded like he was crying. Like he was confused, like, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
Nobody made it obvious of what was going on, and I think that's the best part of it.
I don't know how many people actually know about it or knew about it at the time. I know Bischoff wanted Flair to tell nobody, and Flair's like, "Well, fuck that. I'm at least telling my wife, to not freak out." But I don't know how many. I don't know if Arn knew at the time. I don't know if any of the boys in the back, so to speak, knew about it. I'm not sure how many people actually knew it was a work or not at the time.
I would like to think Arn knew because he came out, but at the same time, they are really good friends in real life. So, I mean, if he really thought, oh, he's having a heart attack, but at the same time, I feel like Arn's not a medical professional. You know, if he was really having a heart attack, what the fuck's he going to do? You know, the best thing to do if someone's having a heart attack is make sure that you get out of the way and make sure that the people who are there to take care of him and you know, make sure that you're not, you know, getting in the way of other people who are there to help your friend having a heart attack. So I don't know. I remember this angle, and I remember they talked about it. They talked about it in another podcast that they said, yeah, he didn't want anybody in the back. I think they probably could have told Arn because Arn would not be one person to spread it to the boys in the back. So I would like to think Arn knew for the same reasons. Once again, because right. I think Arn is so a part of Flair's life that I think that it would have been in the best interest for him not to. You know, go off of the raw emotion he probably would be feeling if Flair was having a heart attack.
Yeah, that's fair. After that, they do show the last part of the replay is Bischoff coming out later, you know, remorseful, apologizing, says he wants a chance to apologize to the family in their eye. You know, he never meant to get to this level. So really playing off, trying to make it realistic as possible that this actually happened. And now it's like, oh shit, you know, we got a little too emotional tonight, you know, that kind of thing. After that, we're going to move to our next match of the night. Mike Enos back in the ring, this time wrestling Fit Finlay. Commentary team's going to spend a lot of this match debating whether Bischoff was sincere with this apology. You know, they're wondering, well, now if this happened, he's off the hook for his, you know, Starrcade match, all kinds of stuff. During the match, though, Mike Enos and Fit Finlay are going to end up on the outside, which you know what that means, Kyle. Whenever Fit Finlay's outside the ring.
Cue Lee Marshall.
Lee's going to basically say that this is where he can do the most damage outside the ring. I really think one of these days we need to play a Thunder drinking game and make all the rules. We need to make sure Fit Finlay's wrestling. We need to make sure that
there's a former television champion.
Television champion, right? I mean, we can definitely enjoy a few drinks playing these.
Anytime Tony Schiavone apologizes for Heenan.
Enos at one point does a great like fisherman suplex up into a shoulder breaker. I gotta admit, Enos has been impressing me lately.
Once again, I'm not no complaints about Enos in the ring. Like I said, we'll talk more about our ultimate, you know, our ratings of the match and stuff. But I'm not shorthanding the quality that he's bringing in the ring.
Right, and he's gonna, you know, eventually do a top rope power slam, but his cockiness gets the best of him yet again. As Fit Finlay's going to do a little reverse roll up for a 3 count. I still give it 2.5 stars. Last time I was a little upset about the cockiness because I thought Enos had no reason to be cocky. I still agree with that, you know, sentiment that he doesn't have a reason to be cocky, but at least they're keeping true to the story that Enos is being cocky for some reason. So I enjoyed the match, and that's why I gave it 2.5 stars.
See, and I feel like you and I both just did a 180, where you're accepting the story.
That too. Yeah,
you're now accepting the story that I was okay with. But I think the problem that I'm having with it now is that, sure, sometimes I gave it a star and 3/4. Match was fine, and like I said, it's another match where it just feels like Enos shouldn't be as cocky as he's acting. He's not. It's not like he's winning matches. He's losing all of his matches because of his cockiness. And I think the main problem I have with this is that if this ultimately gives him something that's going to put him over, then fine. But I don't think it is. I think he's like, it's one of those things where like he's looking good. He's looking bad in losing, and he's not putting over the guy who wins. So it's like, who actually gets, who's making out in a match like this? Fit Finlay doesn't really look great in a match where he's basically getting his shit kicked in and then kind of outsmarts someone with a small package.
Looking better with this one at all.
No, and then Mike Enos doesn't look that great, even though he looks good. He looked good until he did it. It's like he looked good until he ultimately looked like a jabroni losing a match that he had, you know, easily had set up. Now, at some point, let's say 2-3 months down the road, something clicks and he figures it out or something like that, or he goes full heel and joins like the fucking NWO, then I'll be like, okay, I see where this was going, but I don't see where this is going. And now that I've seen 2 straight weeks of it, or at least the last 2 times we've seen Mike Enos, I'm becoming less and less of a fan of this angle now.
Fair enough. We will have to see if or where it does go or doesn't go, but we definitely did a 180 this week. So after the match, we get a backstage kind of Bischoff talking to a camera promo here where he's basically regretting what he has said and done, and he's being very remorseful here. After that, Scott Hall is going to walk out. Of course, no music. He's kind of dressed like a bum. He gets in the ring. He gives the ultimate respect to Luger, so we get this whole babyface kind of promo being cut here. And then Hall's going to say he's got no friends, no ring music, no family. All he's got is wrestling. And then tells Lex he's got nothing to lose, nowhere to go, and all he wants is what he's got coming to him. So kind of a weird promo.
It is, and it's I'm not saying he's not doing a good job with this angle of being the lone wolf and being like, once again, the man of no banners. I just feel like I now officially have taken for granted theme music because sometimes it's corny and sometimes I feel like this whole no music, it's weird. I feel like that's supposed to be a break for like, hey, the it's over, it's time for the pop. But like because there's no music, you don't know when his promo starts and ends, or mainly when it ends. And he's got to have something. He can have music. Just because you're not affiliated with the NWO doesn't mean you can't talk to somebody, from Turner and go get some pre-canned music for you to play as you go out. It's just weird.
Has he had any music that wasn't NWO music?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. Well, I mean, really, he only had, I think, 2 matches before. No, I think his first match in WCW was Bash at the Beach, because I think that was when he wanted to have me and him and Nash and a third guy. He wanted to take on the 3 best guys at WCW and see what they're capable of. And I think that might have been their first match.
I wonder. Yeah,
we'd have to look at Bash at the Beach and see if they had music. I think we'd have to look at Bash at the Beach.
That is interesting. So we'll get back to you on that one.
All I know is Shima Nagam, whatever the fuck his name was, had creepy ass music. Scott Hall can have something.
Right. Commentary team's going to discuss this triangle match at Starrcade between Kidman, Rey Mysterio, and Hoovy. So apparently their number 1 contender matches were meaningless because they're going to get this 3-way match. And most of the time, Heenan's just laughing at the thought of Ray wearing that 6 XL LWO shirt that he's wearing. We're going to get our third replay of the night, and this is kind of catching us all up on the whole mess with Ray, Kidman, and Hoovy. First, it's a Hoovy driver on Ray on the November 23rd Nitro. A week later, Kidman hits Hoovy during his match with Eddie Guerrero. Rey Mysterio is going to dropkick Eddie, which leads to another Kidman win. LWO chases out Kidman and Rey Mysterio at one point. And then Nitro this past Monday, Kidman and Ray go to the outside and take out a lot of the LWO. So we're kind of pushing that. Kidman's against the LWO. Ray is in the LWO, but he is against them. And it's, Hoovy's kind of representing the LWO under Eddie.
So what you're saying is the whole cruiserweight, storyline is shit, and it's all over the place. Yeah. I don't. Well, let's talk about it after the match.
So we got Prince Ike, a former television champion, but you wouldn't know that this week because they didn't say it. But also he didn't wrestle, so he starts coming out. As he's coming out to the ring, the LWO stops him, basically says, "You don't need to wrestle tonight." Basically threatening him that the LWO would take him out if he tries to wrestle, and he says, "You know what? I don't need this," and walks out. So Eddie Guerrero is going to head to the ring, and he's going to force Hoovy and Ray. So a match we haven't seen in at least 7 days. They're going to wrestle again tonight. I had to admit that, again, I thought it was a solid match. The two are very good in the ring. I thought at one point they had a awesome pop-up face smasher spot where he really got some height on it. At one point, I think I forget which one. I think Hoovy misses a crossbody where he really hits him more in the head as opposed to the body itself. But Ray sold it like he got hit in the head, and Shivani, I thought, sold it well talking about it. So I really think it was like a team effort on covering up the botch and made it look like it was just a planned spot. Eddie's going to interfere in this ring, and he's going to do a frog splash while Hoovy kind of interfered with the referee. That's going to lead to a 3 count for Juventud, even though the camera really didn't show us the 3 count. I gave it 2.5 stars at first, and then I'm going to drop it to 2 stars because Prince Iaukea gets the former television champion executive decision where he's able to come in and tell the referee what happened. This is going to cause Charles Robinson to have the decision reversed, and then Iaukea is going to help Rey Mysterio take out some of the LWO until the rest of the stable comes in. And that is your LWO match of the night.
See, I had to keep it at 2.5 stars, and here's the reason why. Great match. It's not the best match that we've seen between Ray and Hoovy, but it was good. Like I said, I like the pops they got on the offense they did do. The botches were covered up really well. The match, the finish, and by the finish, I'm not talking about Eddie getting in the way. I'm fine with that. The whole thing of the LWO
I'm perfectly fine with Eddie getting in the way. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so that's not. I wouldn't call that a shit finish. I was actually happy that it went to Hoovy's just going to get a win over Ray. And once again, it's kind of an inconsequential match. They've got their match going on at Starrcade. This is completely just a grudge match. There's no real stipulations. Right. So for that, I'm okay with Eddie asserting himself into it. Now, the reason why I didn't lower it like you did was because I actually had to have a good laugh when I first saw Prince Iaukea. I'm like, what the fuck's he doing? I had no fucking idea why he was out. And then next thing you know, he tells the ref, like, hey, he interfered. And then Charles Robinson going like, sounds good to me, man. And then, like, I believe you, like Conan did last week. And the only reason why I didn't want to lower it, because I hated it when Conan did it. But now that this is the second time in a row that it's gone on, I'm just convinced that this is just the executive power of the TV title. So they just have the ability to change.
It's got to be in kayfabe at this point, right?
Exactly. I think that we didn't know this back then, but I think we now can clearly say that the television champion or any former it's like being a president. If you're no longer president, you're always the president.
Right.
You're just not the acting president. So he, as the non-acting television champion, Prince Iaukea does have certain executive powers, and one of them obviously is to reverse matches. So for that, I wasn't about to lower the star value of this if that's like a legitimate power that now we have true evidence that we can debate.
I love that we both had the same thought there. After this, we go backstage, and it's Buff and Scott Steiner. They're going to find Lex hanging out in his own locker room by himself. Scott Steiner is going to tell Lex that he believes believes in him and thinks that he should join the Black and White. But then Conan's going to come in and say this is the Pac's locker room. We're the Pac forever. We're Wolfpack Riders till the day we die. And then he's going to leave, and you hear a loud noise. Luger's going to run out to see Conan leveled on the ground, and Scott Hall standing there. So, Scott Hall must have taken out Conan, right?
Oh, and finally, a reason for this match, Right. Then I'm like, well, here's the thing. Clearly, Scott Hall did not beat him up. You don't need to have a mystery if it's really Scott Hall. You could have just shown Scott Hall beating up Conan. It wouldn't have mattered one way or the other. But because we didn't see it, us being intelligent people can probably tell that it wasn't Scott Hall. He just happened to be there. And also, by the way, it's right till the day we Dizzy, okay? You were right. You said it earlier. You felt like, what, you embarrassed now?
Yeah, I can only say it once. We are going to get our first sign of the night.
Speaking of a sign that I've only seen once and probably will only see once.
This is an interesting one to me. It's somebody drew 2 hands, almost holding it up like the diamond cutter sign, right? And it says BVD. That's B as in boy, V as in Violet, D as in David. I'm not sure what BVD stands for. And then in the center of the triangle the diamond that you're making is underwear, like Tidy Whitey's drawn. I don't know what this sign means.
I just saw it now, and now I feel bad that I didn't look at the notes earlier, because then I would have tried to Mike Tenay this somehow, but I got nothing. I have no idea.
No, I don't know where to go here.
I looked at, like, is this like a Rob Van Dam thing? Is this a Diamond Cutter thing? Then you see BVD. I'm like, oh, is this like Saturn with the Death Valley Driver? And it's like the Brief Valley Driver.
Is it supposed to be a diaper, and it's big something diaper in reference to the Giant? I don't know. I
have no idea. There's nothing about it that makes sense.
None at all. But at this point,
I know what this is.
Yeah,
this has to be somebody who is like, this is like an E-Fed thing, back in the late 90s. I bet you some guy, this was like his wrestler, and like that was his that's like his sign for his wrestler, and he probably brought it to the show, because that's the only fucking thing I can think of. It's just something just completely obscure that has nothing to actually do with real wrestling. So the only thing I can think of is it's probably somebody's, online wrestling CyberSlam federation of some sorts.
Well, the camera crew showed it right before our Diamond Dallas Page promo, because I think they thought it was a Diamond Cutter DDP sign. It wasn't. But we are graced with DDP and Kimberly. Of course, it's holidays. They're raising toys for children at Christmas time here. And they show clips of DDP reading some Christmas stories. Kimberly's reading The Grinch. And, of course, it's going to end with a very scandalous picture of DDP with no shirt on, smoking a cigar. And, of course, this whole charity event was titled Bang It Out for Books.
You know what's really interesting about that particular picture? It looked familiar to me. And so I went and I looked at, don't judge me, Kimberly's Playboy spread. And because a couple of the pictures have Diamond Dallas Page in it.
Right.
One of those pictures is literally like they cut out the Kimberly naked, but kept Diamond Dallas Page with the cigar and the shirtless thing. It's from Playboy. That picture is from one of the Playboy photo shoot pictures. They just took Kimberly out. And I feel like you get in trouble for that. I don't know. I feel like that's owned by Playboy. I don't know if you can. I understand it's charity, and you probably shouldn't, draw a line with charity. But at the same time, come on, guys. You could have easily taken a picture of. There's such thing as a Polaroid. You could have easily just made a poster.
One would think so, but hey, you know what? Bang it out for books. All right,
that's right. Bang it out
that's
for
better
books.
Than the Book It program we used to do back in the day.
No, fuck you, dude. I got free personal pan pizzas from Pizza Hut every week because of it. Don't you speak ill about Book It.
What I will speak ill about is Shima Nobunaga.
I think you got it.
He'll be wrestling Disco Inferno tonight. We got Lee Marshall still calling this match, what I thought was a little strange, because once you get the Japanese wrestler in there, that's usually cue for Mike Tenay to show up, but he's not here yet. Disco's rocking the Wolfpack shirt. Of course, he's claiming it was given to him by Nash. Commentary team a little hesitant on actually thinking Disco is a real Wolfpack member. And they said he might not be a Wolfpack member, but he is a two-time television champion. Chartbuster is back, though, for Disco. He's going to set up an atomic drop into the Chartbuster. It actually looked pretty smooth. I gave the match 2.25 stars because I thought it was a solid Disco Inferno enhancement match.
I gave it 2 stars. Decent squash match, I agree. But is Disco really at the point where he's doing squash matches? Like, is he going to be like the next Wrath match of the night where he's going to start wrestling Garbo wrestlers? It's just, I don't know. I feel like Disco has never been that guy. Usually he's, putting other people over most of the time. But I will say, ever since he's joined the Wolfpack, I feel like he's on this one match win streak. So maybe this is a new attitude for Disco Inferno.
Hey, we'll have to wait and see. After the match, we get our third replay of the night, and it's when I say replay, it's them showing the Flair family coming into the arena again from earlier in the night with the limo. Then we get our WCW Saturday Night promo. We find out that Chavo and Wrath, Jericho versus Booker T, and Benoit and Malenko wrestling some NWO members. And it's also a new way that they promoted the show, so they're really upping the graphics. And I think you made a comment about how they're having some pretty good cards here on Saturday night.
Well, once again, I think it's usually 2 hours as well. So, yeah, I mean, well, for all we know, Chavo takes on Shima Nagamagadaga. Wrath fights Cyclope, and then you have Jericho, Booker T, and Benoit Malenko and NWO. Which, if you think about it, that is about on par with a Thunder card where you have, like, I would say 2 matches that you would say, oh, that's interesting enough. I would like to see it. The only thing we don't know is what members of the NWO. For all we know, this is like Vincent Horace versus Benoit Malenko. So, there's definitely a skill curve that drops pretty hard once you kind of go past maybe the top 3 guys in the white and black.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. The next match of the night, Jerry Flynn wrestling Norman Smiley. So Saturday night's still looking pretty good right now.
That's what I thought.
Norman Smiley opens up immediately with the swinging scoop slam. He's going to do his big wiggle a few times. commentary team couldn't give two shits about this match. They're basically discussing Flair and Bischoff. Norman Smiley is going to hit Jerry the Flynn in the top of the head off the top rope and then turn it into a chicken wing. That's how he's going to win the match. I give it a star and 3/4. It's really hard to enjoy the match if even commentary team don't give a shit about it.
I agree. Star and 3/4. I like the charisma of Norman Smiley. I think that's the one thing about the match that we like. Other than that, though, I think the match itself wasn't very good. It was a little stale. I think it is, though. It's hard to have a real smooth technical match with someone like Jerry Flynn because of his wrestling style, which is not really much of a wrestling style. He's more of also a martial artist. And because of that, it wasn't going to be good because so far Norman Smiley has not been able to take kicks very well from just about anybody. And so I had to give that the star and 3/4. I also hated the way this match ended. It was such a weird, non-climactic, exciting way to put it in the chicken wing. He was at the top rope and he kind of just like jumped down from the top rope and just kind of like clubbed him and then put him in the chicken wing. It was just, it's kind of one of those things where, he didn't call for it. He didn't like reverse something into it. I like submission holds where there's some flashiness to it, like a figure four or a Scorpion Deathlock sharpshooter, where there's pieces and parts to it where people can kind of pop for it. This is just him putting an arm behind him and wrenching the neck, and it just wasn't interesting. It didn't even look like it didn't come off as looking like a finishing move. It just looked like, he's got him in some sort of, kind of chicken wing move, and then he just taps out. Like, it would be like if someone was put in like a head scissors or a headlock and someone tapped out.
Yeah, it's not the most flashy one for sure. After the match, we get another part of the Bischoff interview backstage. He says he wants to do right by Rick and be forgiven. And then we're going to get Chris Jericho coming to the ring by Ralphus, wrestling Saturn. And we're going to see our second sign of the night. It says, "I heart my son," which I thought was very sweet and wholesome.
Yeah, that's heartwarming, yeah.
Commentary team, actually, as far as this match, they don't discuss it at all. They actually, at one point, Tony Schiavone actually apologizes for not discussing the match and continues to not discuss the match. Saturn is going to go to the top rope to splash Jericho, but Jericho's going to pull Charles Robinson in the way. Jericho's going to get the Lion Tamer reversed into a Rings of Saturn. This is going to lead the Cat coming out.
Which, by the way, the Cat was just looking fantastic. I don't know what the fuck he was wearing, but I mean, he looked like if Disco Inferno had a husband. He had on like a weird looking hat and just like the most bedazzled looking, button up shirt that he didn't have buttoned up at all. Actually, I think it was buttoned up. And I mean, he looked like a tourist from like Hollywood, and he just looked fantastic.
Well, he does. Saturn is going to get a hold of him for a minute, but he's going to try and take out him and Jericho, but they're going to gain control. Saturn's going to be put in the Lion Tamer. That's going to be your match. I gave it 2 stars. The ending was a bit of a clusterfuck, but they're pushing Saturn and the Cat, so I guess it was okay, but it wasn't anything worthwhile.
I'm fine with it. 2 stars. This has happened before. I think the Math Ratchet of the Night, the same thing happened where Saturn was screwed out of a win because of the Cat. We're just continuing this probably up until this is going to crescendo at Starrcade. Like I said, it creates more heat on the Cat, who, I'm sure during the tape version of this show, which I would assume there probably isn't one because this is the last Thunder. I would assume that they're not having a taped Thunder. It probably wouldn't make sense to. I don't know. I didn't look at the next where the next one was, but I would assume that there's not going to be a taped version.
Not no.
And also, like I said, we don't mind that Jericho is, Jericho's fine with taking a win this way. So, and I would say this though, the match itself was not their best. I feel like Saturn and Jericho.
Oh, they could have much better matches for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to say that they like phoned it in, but there was definitely a lot of sloppiness that I think that they could have tightened up a little bit more. But it was just kind of consistently sloppy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. After this, we get Bischoff once again saying how he wants to see Flair's family and say what he needs to say. And this is going to lead to Tony Schiavone introducing Beth Flair and David and Reid. We're going to see they're going to be introduced. They're not going to walk out for quite some time. It was an awkwardly long time. I feel like somebody didn't give them the right cue. So we're going to get a lot of crowd shots. We're going to see a couple
I bet it was
signs.
Luger. I bet it was Luger's job to give him the cue.
We see first sign, it says WHOOOO Ric Flair Country. And then we saw the sign where everybody holds up a letter, WHOOO. So
we could have murdered the second guy. Okay,
and everything would have been fine, right? We also are going to see our fifth sign of the night, unrelated to Woos and Ric Flair, and it's going to say Brooke is a heifer.
This is mean.
Yeah.
Totally mean.
Finally, Beth Flair and David and Reid are going to come out. Tony walks in. He's going to hug Beth, and then they're going to sit in the front row. So that is your segment. Why was that a segment?
I thought that was screwed up. I thought that was like a WWE Network fuck up where they were introducing them to come down to the ring, and then they went to commercial, and then that was it. Like, all right, well, then our next match. Like, wait, what the fuck happened with the fucking Flair family? But I didn't know it was just them taking their seats. Which, by the way, what kind of people go to a show like crazy late and are only there to see the main event? They take their seats to see a show where they only saw the last match.
You know what? Sometimes that when you're a limousine flying, jet riding,
is the limousine flying, Kaiser?
Right. Yeah. Well,
Jesus Christ, dude! You're the you know what? You're the H. All right, you're the H in Woo.
Sometimes you just show up late. All right. But after that, we get a promo for DDP and Bret Hart. This, of course, leads to they show there's a no disqualification match on Nitro. This is where the Giant interferes and choke slams DDP off the top rope, leading to the Giant and DDP feuding. But Bret Hart's kind of in the middle. He's then going to put the title on the line on Nitro, but the Giant's going to come out with a chair, attacks DDP at the entrance ramp, tears apart the set, and choke slams DDP off the set into the nice padded stage nearby, which we'll see multiple shots of that chokeslam. And then they immediately followed up by showing the chokeslam yet again. So lots of replays there, kind of pushing that DDP Giant feud that is going to be reaching its crescendo at Starrcade.
See, I didn't like the timing that they did this because they were talking about that spot all night and how despicable it was and how dangerous it was and, one of the most violent things we've ever seen, but DDP always gets back up. They talked about this for an hour and a half, and then they finally were like, oh, by the way, that thing that we were talking about this whole time? We're going to show it to you now. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't know if maybe it's because they had nothing else to say, and I guess if they show the whole video package, then it's hard to talk any more about it because obviously the promo is going to speak for itself. But I just felt like it was stupid that they talked about like 4 or 5 times throughout the night and not be like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's a good time now that we've been talking about this enough. Let's just show it to you when we want to talk about it. And I don't know. It's just, once again, this is Thunder has never had a consistent formula.
No, they have not. After that, Pyro's going to go off. Commentary's going to let us know it's not CNN. We're not in Baghdad. That's just our Pyro. And Michael Buffer returns. So it's always random. To your point, it never makes any sense when Thunder does what they do, but they're going to bring Michael Buffer in for Scott Hall and Lex Luger on a Thursday night.
And Scott Hall, I don't know, Michael Buffer, the way he announced these two guys, first of all, he introduced these guys as if he had to write a 2-page paper about each guy. Like, Michael Buffer makes a simple introduction for a match seem like it's as complicated as advanced calculus. With everything, especially with Luger, who he's like, Lex Luger is, a card-carrying member of the Red and Black Wolfpack. However, the White and Black, led by Scott Steiner, is openly trying to recruit Lex Luger. And it's like, no one gives a shit about that. Just give him you are doing Penzer's job. Just say, where is he from? How tall is he? How much does he weigh? And say maybe like the master of the torture rack, Lex Luger. You don't need to go any further than that. You don't need to put yourself like you're Michael Buffer, all right? You don't need to go into business for yourself. Like they're paying you to come here. You don't need to work hard.
But he does. He actually, even to your point, introduces Luger as the guy who's going to be quartered by the NWO, which, to your point, is very unnecessary. We are going to get a crowd shot of our 6th sign of the night, and it just says, "Hi, Jessica." It was written on the dude's hand. He's not in a seat anywhere near the front row, and he got on television.
Dude, good job.
Yes. It's fantastic. So, really well done.
I really hope that him and Jessica are together forever because of it, too.
I do, too. Disco Inferno coming out at the entrance ramp. Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell are going to come out. They're going to cheer on Lex Luger. Luger's going to be, starts hitting the elbows. He shows the forearm. We're going to see our 6th sign of the night. It says, "Lodi violated me." Luger's going to be calling for the torture rack. This leads Buff Bagwell and Scott Steiner to come in and attack Scott Hall while Luger, was calling for that rack, which, of course, that's going to lead to a disqualification. But Luger's not sure what happened. Conan's going to come out and tell Luger who attacked him. So then Luger's going to say, "Oh, God, Conan was attacked by Scott Steiner and Buff, not Scott Hall." So this makes Luger attack Steiner. They clear out the ring. Hall, Luger, and Conan stand tall in the ring.
So was Conan just unconscious for the last hour of the show, and then he just now woke up?
It was a brutal attack. Yeah.
It must have been because Luger, came to the ring thinking it was Hall this entire time. Even though I'd like to think that if somebody was just attacked in the back, Conan's a professional wrestler, everybody. So if you think that him just kind of getting leveled, getting attacked by 2 guys for literally 6 seconds was enough to comatose Conan for an hour, then Conan doesn't deserve to be TV champion. Okay, he loses executive privileges. Give it back to Prince Iaukea.
Wait, I did rate the match. I debated whether I wanted to or not. I gave it a star and 3/4. So,
same thing. I think the match went on long enough that there was enough going on between the two of them.
I did, yeah.
I feel like I mean, once again, we went into this knowing there wasn't going to be a clean finish. You really think that either Luger was going to put him up in the rack or Hall was going to give him the outsider's edge? Then you're a stupid idiot, okay? And Heenan should deserve to berate you as much as he wants. If you've been watching the show and listening to this podcast for 43 straight shows, you're fooling yourself if you thought this was going to be a clean finish.
After that match, though, we're not over yet. Tony Schiavone is going to be back in the ring. He calls in David and Reid, which I thought was weird since Beth was there as well, but she can just hang out in the front row. They're going to get into the ring, but out comes Eric Bischoff rocking an Adidas jumpsuit. He says he doesn't want any trouble. He feels terrible, and he's wants to address Beth in the front row as well. He says to David, he knows that David wants to be a wrestler, but he's got big boots to fill with following in Rick's shoes. The "We Want Flair" chants are loud, which Eric really plays well off of here in this promo. He's then going to say, I'm so sorry your old man has such a weak heart, and I apologize to you for having to kick your ass." And then he attacks David Flair. Bryan Adams shows up and takes Reid Flair. Barry Windham's going to come out. He's going to attack David Flair. Bischoff's going to slap David around. Mike Tenay has lost his fucking mind. He is not happy with Bischoff here. Beth Flair is going to be on the outside screaming and yelling at Eric. Eric's going to slide out of the ring. She starts to push him. You think, oh my God, is he going to hit her? Nope. He lays a big old kiss on her as we fade out. And that is your Thunder. That wraps up 1998. What did you think about this week's show?
I had zero interest in 100% of this show until the last thing. So it's kind of one of those, like, when you watch a movie that's garbage, but the ending is like, oh, awesome. Then you kind of walk out feeling somewhat satisfied.
Yeah, like the movie was actually solid. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, or if a match was, if a movie was fantastic, but a shit ending, like something like The Mist or something like that, then you're like, oh, that movie was garbage. I felt like this was like the former, where I did not care at all about any of this. Conan, Kenny Chaos, don't give a flying shit. Mike Enos, Fit Finley. I didn't like. Like I said, I don't like the story that they're now telling with Enos. Now it's gone two weeks in a row. I was okay with it the week before because it was Chavo. He's a face and he's kind of kooky. Fit Finley, there's nothing to be had with that. There was nobody came out of that looking better than before. So not a big deal. Ray versus Hoovy, this is like the 4th week in a row with really no odds. Plus the whole Prince Ikea coming in. Once again, like I said, everything about this whole show gave me no real feeling of like, wow, that's really pushing that story forward. Because it's not. Even the Scott Hall Lex Luger match, there's no story other than the story that now no longer exists now that he knows that Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell attacked Conan. So that whole thing that was happening on Nitro has now died on Thunder. So I don't care about that now. So the only thing that I felt like feeling like, oh shit, what's going to happen next week was the last 6 minutes of the fucking show. So I just sit around for an hour and a half to finally get like a nugget of 6 minutes that I can actually say was gripping and, exciting television. So overall, very underwhelmed. I think most of my matches I gave 2 stars or less. So as far as from like actual wrestling content and quality, I felt that this was definitely a weaker Thunder. I'm glad this wasn't a go-home show. Thunder won't get a go-home show for Starrcade, unfortunately. So we'll have to, I guess, just kind of figure out what the hell happens on the next Thunder, which is another thing I'm kind of mad about. If we know that this is going to be, in a sense, the last Thunder that we're going to watch, fucking nothing happened, man. And it's kind of upsetting to me, to be honest. I was really not digging this Thunder.
It's funny because I thought it was not a bad Thunder. That wasn't my favorite, but I think I enjoy the matches a little bit more overall than you did. Not that all of them were that great or worthwhile to discuss, but there was a couple I thought were solid in there. But for me, the ending made it. The ending, it sent us home with a good story. One of the better endings we've had to a Thunder, probably in all 44 episodes, if we're being honest. And it didn't end with a match, which is probably a big part of it. It didn't end with a bullshit just DQ finish or something like that. So we had a moment that's going to continue to push Rick and Eric. And I mean, he beats up the kids. He beats up Ric Flair's kids and kisses his wife. I mean, that's some good heel shit right there. Oh
yeah, I'm fine. Like I said, I really like that. I do agree. This is probably one of the better we're out of time moments of Thunder. It's just kind of a shame that was, there was 126 minutes before that happened.
That's fair. But I think it was enough to leave me feeling okay. And, it wasn't a go home show, but it pushed at least that story. There was a few other discussions on what is happening for Starrcade, but it wasn't a go home show. So I'm not going to rate it too much harder than that. But it was okay. That said, that is our show this week. So if you haven't yet given us a follow, go do it. Leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Give us a follow on Twitter at ThunderCraps. And you can always go to thundercraps.com for previous episodes and all of that. Then after that, go check out Starrcade 1998 because that is going to wrap up 98 before we return. And while next week would be Thunder 45 into January 7th, we're actually going to hold off a week on that and do a year in review. We like to do this kind of our, we've gone through a year of Thunder. Let's discuss it. Let's discuss our favorite feuds of Thunder, our favorite matches, least favorite matches, MVPs, all that. Only related to the 44 episodes of Thunder. I think it'll be a fun little show, nice little break. Before we jump right into 1999. So, for Kyle Hogan, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thunder Craps podcast.
We are designingly out of time. See ya.